copious notes on how the process works. So an hour and a half passes, he thanks the supervisor, and he leaves to go to his office. But on the way to the office, he stopped at the payphone in the bank's lobby. He picked up the phone, and he called the wire transfer center, but this time he changed hats. He wasn't Stanley Rifkin, bank consultant. He was now Michael Hansen from the international department. And the young lady, first question the young lady asked him was, "What's your office number, sir?" He looked down at his yellow pad, 286. Because he got that when he was doing the interviews. She goes, "Sir, may I get the code for the day?" 4711. "How may I help you?" "I'd like to transfer $10,200,000 to Waschad Handels Bank in Zurich, Switzerland through Irving Trust in New York." She goes, "No problem, sir. Let me get your inter-office settlement number." Well, Stanley kind of scratched his head. He looked down at his pad, and nothing had come up about an inter-office settlement number, but instead of getting nervous and just giving up, he just said, "Well, let me call you right back." Stanley hangs up the phone, deposits another coin. He calls the international department. This time he changes hats again, and he's now George from the wire transfer center. So he asked the young man that answered the phone, "What's your department's inter-office settlement number? Because we're trying to clear a transfer that was called in yesterday." The young man said, "Oh, no problem, it's 2478. Stanley thanked him very much, called back the lady back in the wire transfer room, and gave her the inter-office settlement number of 2478. She said that the transfer of $10,200,000 would be completed in the next 24 to 48 hours. When Stanley hung up the phone, he was interviewed by the press after he was busted. He said he felt like he had won the lottery. So now $10 million on the way to Zurich, Stanley had to figure a way to get it back into the United States. So what he did is he contacted a Russian diamond company that would take the cash and convert it to diamonds. A week later, he lands in Zurich. The bank still had no idea they'd been ripped off. He does the diamond deal with this Russian diamond company, and now he's in his hotel room running his hands through $10 million worth of diamonds. That must have felt pretty good, huh? Problem is, how does he get the diamonds back to the United States? Well, I guess he didn't choose to use FedEx, because that'd be a little bit suspicious. Probably they don't insure packages up to $10 million these days, or back 20 years ago. So at London's Heathrow International Airport, he purchased a money belt, put the money belt on in the restroom, and stuffed the diamonds in the money belt. And he was praying to God that United States Customs would not search him when he comes back into the country. So he arrives at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport. Customs asks him a few questions, and now he's back in the United States, free and clear, $10 million worth of diamonds. A few days later, he calls his lawyer, a guy named Gary Goodgame, and invites him to lunch at the Beverly Hills Hotel in Los Angeles. And over lunch, he reaches into his breast pocket, pulls out 3 large diamonds, puts them into an ashtray, and pushes them over to his attorney and says, "This is my gift for you." The attorney looks at these diamonds. He goes, "Stanley, what is this, zirconian?" He goes, those are real diamonds." And then you know that grin you get on your face when you do something mischievous as a kid? And you just have to tell one of your buddies about it? Something sneaky? Well, Stanley, assuming he had attorney-client privilege, meaning when you talk to your attorney it's confidential, he told his attorney how he defrauded the bank. That afternoon, the lawyer went straight to the FBI in Los Angeles and told them the same story. FBI calls the bank. Bank says they're not aware of any fraud, but they'll investigate. Eventually, Stanley became a fugitive because they caught up with him. I've been there and done that. It's not a fun thing to do, but that's a story for another day. So the feds tracked down Stanley to a friend's house in San Diego, California. And around 6 a.m. one morning, boom, boom, boom on the front door of his friend's apartment. His friend opens the door. How can I help you? Because he kind of jolted him out to sleep. Is Stanley Mark Rifkin here? No, I haven't seen him in years. Then one of the agents tells this guy the criminal and civil penalties for harboring a federal fugitive. All of a sudden, oh, Stanley's right in here. Come on in. So they found Stanley hiding in the back. They found the diamonds. Unfortunately for the bank, the diamonds went up in value, so they made a profit. And then Stanley was let out on bail, pending his trial. So an undercover FBI operative befriended Stanley, and they both conspired to do the same fraud against a different bank. Stanley didn't know it was undercover FBI, was arrested twice for the same crime. He ended up getting sentenced to 8 years in federal custody, was released in 3, and I don't know what Stanley is doing nowadays. But what Stanley did is he used the same skills and techniques that identity thieves and hackers use, called the art of deception. And this is what my presentation is about today. It's about social engineering. Psychological manipulation to convince a person to either release information or to do some action that benefits the attacker, or the hacker in this case. And you can have the best technologies that money can buy, right? You can have the best firewalls, intrusion detection systems. Here's, very popular, like this RSA secure ID tokens, right? You can have all this technology companies spend thousands of dollars on, yet if I can call one person inside a company and manipulate them, it bypasses all the technology. So now that I'm a hacker that's become a security consultant, right, I see a lot of people, a lot of businesses out there on the technology, right? They don't focus on the people or the processes. So where do the hackers go? After the low-hanging fruit, because it's easier to attack. So when I'm speaking for corporations about this subject, I try to encourage them to have a meaningful and effective security program. You need to think about technology, processes, and people. And only by a combination of all three can you really reduce the threat. So, why do hackers use social engineering? Because it's easier than hacking a system or exploiting a technical vulnerability. Unless you could download exploit code from Milware, then maybe that's easier. But if the truth be known, most of the attacks are hybrid, meaning that the hacker uses social engineering when it's expedient and exploits a technical vulnerability and combines it. Now, mind you, I don't know how many of you know of Milware. That's a site that hosts exploit code, but usually that's for a particular operating system running in a particular environment, maybe at a particular service pack level, maybe if only certain binaries exist on the system or certain packages are installed. So it's sometimes work to get that exploit working for the environment that you want to attack. It's much easier for the hacker to make a telephone call, to send an email, to gain access to those systems. Social engineering evades every intrusion detection system on the market. If any of you know of any, I'd like to know. Right? It's free or low cost. Why? Because the attacker is sending an email, which is free, or they're calling on your company's toll-free number, so the company's paying for the call. It's low risk because nobody protects themselves against this type of attack. It works on every OS system platform, right? Ubuntu, Leopard, Windows, it doesn't matter. There are no logs. There's no audit trail. It's about 99.9% effective. What was it? About 2 years ago, I was invited to a conference in the States, and a CIO of a major bank invited me to lunch, and she told me that she put her employees through this intensive security awareness training program, specifically about the threat of social engineering. A month later, she hires another company to test her people. It took 11 phone calls before that company was able to break into the bank's network just using social engineering. But everyone here knows the most important thing, right? You still can't go to Windows Update and download a patch for stupidity, can you? No, right? But who is the real problem? It's the users, right? There's a conference out of the UK called the Info Security Conference, and every year they go to London's Waterloo Station, the train station, and they go with gifts. A couple years ago, they went with boxes of free pens, and they would offer people a free pen in exchange for their password. How many people do you think complied? 9 out of 10. Mind you, do you know if it's a real password? Who knows? But probably people couldn't care less because they figured, well, this person doesn't know me. 9 out of 10. So the next year, they went back to London's Waterloo Station and they went with chocolate Easter eggs. Same thing, 7 out of 10 complied. This last conference they changed tax. They decided they wanted to get enough information about a person to steal their identity, to get access to their bank account. So instead of going to the train station, they went to the theatrical district, with clipboards, right? The guy with the clipboard doing the survey. If you answer the survey, you get a free ticket to the theater. So what they would ask people is, the first question they'd ask is, what's your name? Everybody says, yeah, my name is so-and-so. Okay, they fill it out. Then the next question would be, well, what's your date of birth? People would feel uncomfortable. Well, why do you need to know my date of birth? That's kind of sensitive. Well, you have to be 18 years or older to qualify. All right, over 90% of people gave their date of birth. This one kills me. Well, first they asked, where did you go to school? Because you look like an actor or you look like an actress if they're talking to a girl. Did you go to drama school? No, I went to such and such school. So now they have the name of the school. Then I would say, well, in movies, actresses and actors come up with stage names. And how they do this is they combine their with their pet's name. They come up with their stage name. What would yours be? And these gullible people are giving out their mother's maiden name and pet's name. And at the end of the survey, again, over 90% of the people answered all the questions. You had enough information to pose as that person to their bank. You pretty much, do wire transfers or whatnot. So the real problem out there is people love giving out information. Have you went to MySpace or Facebook or Twitter lately? People give out a lot of information on there that some attacker could use to their benefit. All right. I show this picture every time I speak throughout the world, right? And guess where I took this picture? Right here in your hometown of Bogota. And what I did, they go, what's wrong with this picture? I went into ComCell to get a prepaid SIM card, right? And I kind of spot stupid things people do. So of course, this girl is wearing her RSA Secure ID around her neck, facing me, so I can see her token code. But that itself is not good. You still need the PIN. But when I asked for her to create, set me up with my prepaid SIM card, I saw her type in her PIN like this. So now I have her PIN. Anytime I want to get access to ComCell's network, I now have her RSA Secure ID token. That's it. Why do people wear their passwords around their neck? I don't know. Because they can, right? So, when you hear about social engineering in the press, it's usually about some teenager that calls somebody up over the telephone and asks them for their password. That's what you hear about, but that's very amateurish and basic. These type of attacks go from something simplistic, can't seem to